Okay, hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Spiritualists National Union live stream for Hidesville 2025. So, happy Hidesville Day. It's Monday, the 31st of March. My name's Les Henderson. I'm Vice President of the SNU. And with me is Paul J Gaunt, the Museum Curator here at the Arthur Findlay College. We are live streaming today from our home from home, the Arthur Findlay College, discussing Hidesville Day, the Fox Sisters, and Spiritualism. So please send in your questions by our Facebook link, and we shall endeavour to answer them in the next 20 minutes or so. But for those of you who are able to join us live, there will be a recording of this session available on Facebook. So please continue to send in your questions, and we shall endeavour to answer them. So Paul, tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, my name's Paul Gaunt. I've been here for quite a long time, continuously, but I started work here in 1973 as the barman. And through life, I've progressed through different spiritualist types of interests. And eventually I end up here. This is the museum, the Britain Memorial Museum at the Arthur Findlay College. And it's my particular interest now is in the history. So we're going to talk about Hydesville and its importance and see how we go from there. And I hope there will be many questions from you on this particular subject.
Okay, Paul, can you give us then a brief overview why and how we come to recognise Hydesville Day?
Okay, Hydesville Day is obviously a very important day in the calendar of spiritualism worldwide. But if we were sitting here in the Victorian age and we say we had Emma Harding Britten here, we had Stater Moses, maybe James Morse here, it would be a slightly different story, because to them, spiritualism, modern spiritualism began a long time before Hydesville. The history would go back to Emanuel Swedenborg in 1741 at the age of 43. He entered into what he called a spiritual state, a spiritual phase of his life. Then followed by Swedenborg was Anton Mesmer, and he introduced mesmerism, animal magnetism, and this would be a very important foundation as spiritualism would progress in future years with trance, with things like psychic force, and so on. So that would all come from Mesmer.
Can I just ask Paul there, is mesmerism practiced today?
I don't think so, not quite so much. Many mediums of our past, like Eileen Garrett, for example, she would use mesmerism to go into a deeper trance. But as we will see, or as you would see if you ever come to the museum, that all mediumship goes through phases. Everything is a phase where one thing begins, one thing enters, one thing finishes. Sometimes that changes its direction and so forth. Like spirit art, for example, has always been here with us. But things like slate writing, 15, 20 years maximum, it came and it died out.
So would you then say that regarding, go back to spirit art, that then a slight element of mesmerism is used currently with some of our established spirit artists?
In the beginning, mesmerism was the most important factor in all phenomena.
Yeah.
If you was a photographer, a psychic photographer, if you was an artist, if you was a slate writer, you would hold your materials of your trade, i.e. your film or your paper for your painting and so forth. You'll keep it very close to you all the time. So it would be completely magnetized the whole time. That magnetism would be the foundation for spirit to work upon. And of course, in them days, it was physical phenomena. Okay, and that would generate up to psychic force, and that goes through many names. And today we recognize the name, for example, ectoplasm. But it all comes from this particular thing, from Mesmer,
yep.
And through the stages, ever changing, ever evolving, different names, but different names often mean the same thing.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, interesting. So why is it important that we recognise Hydesville Din?
Right, the important thing is that after Mesmer, we had the Shakers. Okay, this is in America. And Emma Harding's Britain went out to see the Shakers, and she believed that they were John the Baptist of the modern spiritualist movement. They would go into trances. They would trance speak. People would speak through them. This is all before Hydesville, okay? And then after this, of course, come Andrew Jackson Davis. And as we know, Andrew Jackson Davis was mesmerized. He went into a trance. Swedenborg would come to Davis and speak through him. Swedenborg's philosophy from all those years ago today is still used in the modern movement today, of where the spirit world is here, it's in a different dimension, and so forth. So here we have the foundation of basic modern spiritualism. But it wasn't dramatic at all. Nothing was really particularly taken notice of it. And then came Hydesville. Hydesville's glory, really, if we want to use that word, is it demonstrated without doubt a two-way conversation between the spirit world and between the physical world. We could communicate with raps. We could ask questions with raps. The spirit world, or the spirit, should we say, would answer directly, sensibly, and that's how or why Hydesville is so special today.
Okay.
Because of this two-way communication. But the story of Hydesville is not as if we read it today. It's very much changed today.
Well, that's quite interesting that since our conversation this morning, and we know we are a progressive religion, we always aim for the truth. And as we do work towards that truth, we are open to elements of change. And you've uncovered something as being a historian curator, which is very, very interesting, that puts the old Hydesville story in a completely different light. And would you like to share that with us, Paul?
Yeah, the thing is that history is always changing. And when I say history is always changing, the actual history is not, but the interpretation is. Okay. And the interpretation of Hydesville, there have been so many bits added onto Hydesville that the actual real story is almost unrecognizable. This does not take away from the quality of Hydesville. Without doubt, I would say, at least to me, that the events of Hydesville are the most single best ever demonstration of power of spirit communication because of what took place. Because there were so many people involved. The same people were not there on the same day. And there's not one single contradiction in Hydesville whatsoever that I have ever found. So we hear the story of Hydesville, of two little girls talking to Mr. Splitfoot. We hear of them making and creating codes. And we hear many things about these two little girls. But in reality, that didn't actually happen.
Okay.
In reality, it didn't happen. And what happened is Hydesville's not just one day, as many people think. It started in about 1883. And this was with a murder. It's a very grisly tale of a murder.
Right, okay. Do you want to give us a bit of an insight into that?
Yeah, around about 1883, there was a family called John Bell and his wife living in the Hydesville cottage. The Hydesville cottage was owned by Mr. Hyde. He was a doctor. And he had the Hyde's Tavern, a pub on the corner of the crossroads. And that's why it was called Hydesville, after Mr. Hyde. And Mr. Hyde's family would still live in this little hamlet in the state of New York. And they would rent out the cottages. Okay? So all the people we talk about here were renting the same cottage of Mr. Hyde. And Mr. Bell and his wife hired a girl called Lucretia. Lucretia was about 14 years old, and she was basically a maid. One day, a peddler come to the door, and Lucretia was very interested in this peddler because she wanted to buy a few little things, especially some thimbles. Mr. and Mrs. Bell sent her away, and the peddler said that he would call round the house, her house, later. Well, he never turned up. In the meantime, Lucretia was dismissed, and then she was reinstated. And when she was reinstated, Mrs. Bell was sewing all these clothes together, which she considered may have been the peddler's clothes. They were very, very similar. They was all torn up and like rags. And she was making them smaller to fit Mr. Bell. As it went on, Lucretia was asked to go down to the cellar one day and actually to shut the door, because you go down the stairs to the cellar and there's a door behind it. And she fell over in the middle of the cellar. Then she screamed. And when she come back up, she told Mrs. Bell about some holes. And Mrs. Bell told her it was the rats. But she was conscious that Mr. Bell was down there doing stuff with this soil and bringing soil in after this event took place.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the raps began. There were many raps over a long period of time. Okay. So she was considered the house was very haunted. The important thing about Hydesville is that everything was recorded by a gentleman called Mr. Lewis. And Mr. Lewis wrote the reports out a few days after the actual events of Hydesville, so they were nice and close in his mind, easy to recall. And all these statements were signed.
Okay.
So here we have them in this book. And here really lays the problem of the Hydesville story. After the Bells left, we had another gentleman and his wife come in called Michael and Hannah Weekman. These were experiencing very similar things to the previous people with the rapping. One night on the door, he goes to the door and opens the door and there's nobody there. So he closes the door, opens the door again, nobody there. This kept going on for a while, so he thought, I'll catch him. So he kept his hand on the door. And as it knocked, he opened the door and there was still no one there. And this is the type of disturbances in which would continue at the Hydesville house. After a while, of course, they left and the Fox family moved into the house. So we come here now to John Fox, his wife Margaret, and possibly 2 little girls, maybe 3 little girls, depending which story we read. Because it's believed by many accounts, and as given by the Fox sisters themselves later in their life, that their niece was there. Their niece was the daughter of the elder sister called Lee, and her name was Lizzie.
Right. Do you think the Fox sisters would have any idea of what would follow from these rappings?
I personally don't think so.
No.
Because when they moved in the December, nothing really happened until a little while before today, the 31st of March. And that's when it all started with the rapping and all the rest of it. And it started every night. And they would get up and they would check everything. And there appeared to be no reason why this rapping was. We should explain here possibly that if we look at our history, rapping is not sounded like this. You cannot imitate a rap in which we would have in them days. And what a lot of people don't realize is as spiritualism grew, as the phenomena was taking place with our pioneers, it was all around the raps. Like if you was a state writer, the rap would come to begin, the rap would become to finish. If you was a psychic artist, you would have the same things and so forth. So the rap appears to have come from inside the actual chair or door or whatever it is. It wasn't a sound like this. It was an inner sound. It was a vibration. Or as the Fox sisters would say, it was a jar. They could feel it on their feet when they were standing. They'd feel a jar, okay, rather than an actual rap.
So the Fox sisters did experience some type of rappings.
Oh, yes, every night. Yes.
Yes.
And they were tired.
Yeah.
And they were irritable. And then on the night of the 31st, or on the afternoon of the 31st of March, for the first time, the rapping began in the daytime, okay? And we will know with psychic phenomena, things don't normally happen in daytime.
Yeah.
But this happened in daytime. So we know the story. They wanted to go to bed early because they was tired, but they was woken up. And here really is what people look at as the birth of modern spiritualism because of this. But at this time, of course, nobody else have actually communicated with these raps. No, they just looked at it as a ghostly influence. They were scared and so forth, obviously. So nobody actually tried to communicate with this rap.
Yeah.
And it was at this time, Mrs. Fox started to talk and asking questions.
Okay.
And what she found was that the raps responded to her.
Yeah. Good. So history over the years has shown that people have had the ability to communicate with the spirit world. But what is it about Hidesville and the Fox sisters that make it so consequential and historic of what happened?
Because simply, really, because of the two-way communication. This is what was the birth of spiritualism.
Yeah.
And what Mrs. Fox found is that when she spoke to this, what she called a spirit, she asked, "Are you a man?" No reply. "Are you a spirit?" Yes. The rapping didn't particularly come how we read two raps for yes and one rap for no, or the rest of it. You'd often get a lot of raps for yes, and maybe you would get no raps at all for no. So there was no consistency in this actual process.
Yeah.
But Mrs. Fox was very impressed or very worried. She was scared, obviously, about what was happening. But this was the first communication, which was two ways. Then the story, she went to the neighbours. She invited the neighbours in, and they would ask questions. How old am I? How many daughters have I got? How many brothers have I got? So forth. And it would rap all the numbers out.
Yeah.
Okay, so this would go on almost all night. The two little girls clicked their fingers and asked the raps, and they imitated the raps. So she went like this 3 times, Katie, and there would be 3 raps. And really, that's the extent of the actual Fox sisters' involvement in Hidesville.
But I suppose that then led to the understanding that there was definitely some type of intelligence behind these rappings.
Yes, there was a definite intelligence behind these rappings, and the intelligence would be shown later that night, because as different neighbours come in, ask different questions, this continued all the time.
Yeah.
The most important neighbour really was Mr. Jusler, William Jusler.
Right.
William Jusler had lived in the house previously. He had known Mr. and Mrs. Bell, and he was with Mrs. Fox, the main people that would question the spirit. Okay. And what they found out was, or what was claimed, is that Mr. Bell, when the peddler comes, the one we talked about when they met Lucretia,
Yeah.
on a Tuesday night at 12 o'clock, he got the carving knife and he cut his throat.
So?
He robbed him.
Right. Okay.
He killed him. Okay. And later, he would drag him down the stairs into the cellar and presumably bury him.
Okay.
Now, the previous people, the Wigwams and the Bells, the maids, actually would be disturbed by the sound at nights of this sound of being dragged down to the cellar, dragged across the floor, down the steps, and into the centre of the cellar. This would happen very frequently prior to March the 31st, okay, which is quite evidential in itself, really.
Yes.
Okay, and now I don't know if we can see here. This I'm not going to. This is like a diagram here. I don't know if we can see of Fox Cottage. Make sure I got it the right way up. Yes, and it was south facing. This was the lounge. Okay, and just here, this room here was the east bedroom. Everything happened in the east bedroom. All the raps were in the east bedroom. All the activity was in the east bedroom. When these maids and different people went to bed at night, they would sleep in the east bedroom. So this was what you would probably call a haunted room. Okay. And just behind, here's the stairs going up to the attic.
Yeah.
And behind there is what you would call the buttery. Okay, in those days. Sometimes they used it as a bedroom, but genuinely it was the buttery. And somewhere in there were some steps going down to the cellar. And they would hear them being dragged from the east bedroom, out of the door, into the buttery, down the steps.
They could hear the steps.
Yes.
But was everyone able to hear these steps, or was it those who were only mediumistic?
No, everybody.
Everyone could hear.
Didn't have to be a medium.
So that definitely then proves that it was a phenomenon.
So basically a haunted house where everybody would be able to hear exactly the same thing.
Good. And we have a model of the house.
Yes, this is a model here.
If you can just turn the camera to, can you see that? Let's bring this in. This is one I made earlier, folks. Not in the box. Do you want to talk about the house itself?
Okay, so this was actually done by a prisoner, actually, for us. It's made out of matchsticks, and he wanted to give something to the museum. So I gave him a plan, and this is what he done. So basically, this is the east bedroom here. This would be the main door, south facing. It was a very small cottage. At the back would be a small kitchen, and then the buttery would be here. It was what was called in those days a half attic. So only the first part of the attic here would actually be used as a bedroom, and the rest was empty. So this would be basically just for guests. The attic.
That's very similar to my house currently.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So the attic. So the attic itself doesn't really come into the story at all. No. The only real thing that comes into the story is the east bedroom, the buttery, and the cellar.
Right, okay. I shall turn this round and you can see what I was talking about regarding the attic.
This should not be here. Okay. So it would be just the half bedroom.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Very, very good. So, Paul, there are many misconceptions and things around Hidesville, especially Hidesville Day, that that people might not be aware of or appreciate. Is there any misconceptions that, really, with your knowledge and expertise and your that you've uncovered as a curator, like to share with us?
Yes, indeed. I mean, obviously, we'll come back to the phenomena again, because obviously this would increase and so forth. So we've all heard the story of Hidesville. We've all heard the girls call him Mr. Splitfoot, which basically is a hoof devil. We've all heard the exaggerated tales. We've also heard about a peddler, which we'll come back to in a minute, with the names of the peddler. But about 18 years ago, I found on eBay the original script for the noises that appeared at Hydesville. Okay, so this was a gentleman called Mr. Lewis, who recorded all what happened at Hydesville. 22 of the people that actually were there and experienced this, they signed their names and so forth, and the dates and all the rest of it. Okay, so this became a very important part of the story. As time went on, this would become very rare and would go out of circulation. Okay. Then in 1885, the eldest Fox sister, Anne Lee, wrote a book. Okay. In that book, she put the statements from her father, from her mother, from Mr. Jusler, and lots of the other people involved in Hidesville. Okay, so historians have always used this as the template of the story.
Yeah.
Okay, what they didn't know was that Lee changed the scripts. She changed the scripts to direct the story more into her family. Okay. So in a minute we'll come to a very important part about Mr. Jusler.
Yeah.
Her mother's statements are changed, and they were very exaggerated. Like if a chair moved, okay, in the original script, in Leah's translation, she would type all that up and make it into a big event. Okay, so she exaggerated all the actual phenomena that was taking place.
So she exaggerated it, but she didn't make it up. Is that what we said? The phenomena did occur.
Yeah, but she made it up from the point of view is that she omitted parts of the script, in which we will see a little bit later when we get to the alphabet code and the rest of it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we assume it was the two girls in which created a code. We hear the two girls did a code. They spoke to Mr. Rosmer, and all these things happen. Well, they didn't actually happen at all. Okay. Because this is what has grown on top of it. Like we all know the names Charles B. Rosmer, okay, or Ronser, okay. These were added to the story many years later by people that were not even at Hydesville. In fact, there are many names from different people from that particular time that gave a name to the peddler. But in actual reality, the peddler never actually gave his name at all.
Oh, interesting.
We will come to that bit as we're moving on.
So this booklet, this is available.
This is available from the SNU or here in the museum.
Yeah.
When I read the booklet, I looked and I thought, well, this isn't the story.
Yeah.
Things are missing here, and I learned things. Then I compared what I had, which comes from a museum in America. When I compared it to Leah's book, I realised then that the actual context had been changed or it had been altered.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So, and that's when I realised the rest of it. Then, as my interests go, I got in touch at that particular time. This is before the internet, or before I had internet, with the British Library in London. And I got the original documentation, which we can all get now freely on the computer. The first book on what happened really is by a gentleman called Catron. This was published in 1855, and it's called Modern Spiritualism, hence the word today, Modern Spiritualism. Yeah, so Modern Spiritualism didn't just start at 1848. It started around about the mid-50s, the 1850s, okay? Because in between we would have the demonstration of the Fox Girls at the Corinthian Theatre, yes, and so forth. So, and that's when I realised the importance of this booklet as it was at the particular time it was written, different to the interpretation by Leah Underhill, she was called then.
So as we said, that booklet is available from SNU, so
and on the website.
On the website, so
and here at the cottage, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the essence of how the Fox sisters communicated really, and honestly, remains the same, even 177 years later. Is there a timelessness you feel to working with spirit?
A timelessness, what?
Yeah, to working with the spirit world, regarding the way that they communicated. And if we look on modern day spiritualism, on the way mediums who are around today communicate, there's a drastic difference.
Yes.
With the way communication takes place now.
Yes.
But in them days when the Fox sisters were doing public demonstrations, would you say it differs much from current day?
Okay, of course, the Fox sisters never really did public demonstrations as such.
Yeah.
They only gave one, as far as I know, which was two of the sisters.
Yeah.
Their means of communication, which will come more apparent when we talk about how the alphabet code was established on March the 31st. I think we should just pop back to that first. So
yes,
and then we can go to there. So as March the 31st went on, many neighbours came to the house. Many neighbours asked the same questions, similar questions. There was no contradiction. The answers were always correct. Pretty boring questions, like how many children, how old's my son, how old's my daughter. But it's quite impressive that every single one was correct. And of course, these are recorded in the original statements as well. As I said earlier, the most important person I think that was there was William Jusler. And he was the neighbour that previously lived in the house.
Okay.
And he wanted to find out more about the peddler. Okay, it was him with Mrs. Fox that found out about the viewing card. He was robbed, all the rest of it. It was him that found out about how his body was dragged from the east bedroom round and into the buttery and down the stairs and all the rest of it. So it was Jusler, not the Fox sisters, that actually produced the code. Okay, so he produced what would become very famous and indeed would make the Fox sisters very famous after Hidesville, the alphabet code. And what he did is he would write on a piece of paper, A, B, C, D, all the rest of it, and go through it, or just go through the alphabet. So he would go A, B, C. When he gets to a certain letter, okay, that's the first word.
Yeah.
And that's how he hoped to establish the peddler's name. The peddler was only actually mentioned once on March the 31st, when Jusler said, "Were you the peddler, or are you the peddler?" And he said, "Yes." Okay, so he was the murdered peddler. That goes back to 1843, murdered by Mr. Bell, and so forth. Okay, so all that Jusler could establish is C and B. There was no other name actually established during Hidesville.
Okay.
And Hidesville wasn't just March the 31st, it would continue for about another week, 10 days. The phenomena would continue. And what they would do is the son, in fact, there was 3 Fox sisters at Hidesville. There was Maria, who you probably don't know or people haven't heard of. Maria, she was married to her cousin, Mr. Smith. There was David Fox, the brother. There was the 2 girls, Catherine and Margaretta, and possibly Leah's daughter, Lizzie, as well. So all these people were at Hidesville. David Fox and his wife sorted a committee out. And the committee was, because of this rapping was going on all day and the days that followed, they were convinced that somebody was doing this.
Yeah.
So they set up this committee to try and catch people. They'd be on the top floor, they'd be on the bottom floor. They would ask questions from the cellar and they'd hear the raps. They found out that between the floor of the lounge and the cellar, there was no gap between it. It was just a single floorboard. There was no way anybody could hide. There was no way anybody could put devices in there and so forth.
Yeah.
And of course, the proof really is how phenomenal Hidesville was, is the fact that over all these days in which it was taking part, even when the Fox sisters there, forgetting the earlier part, was that the same people weren't there all the time.
Right.
So there were different people all the time. And all these different people were asking similar questions or the same questions.
And all experiencing the same
Experiencing the same thing. But above all, they all got the correct answers. So there was no contradiction whatsoever. There was a large amount of money offered if anybody could prove or find out how this was happening. Of course, it wasn't claimed, because nobody could find out. So this is why Hidesville is so special, because it was such a strong, powerful demonstration between the 2 worlds.
Yeah, and I think that what gives us spiritualists a why today is it resonates with a lot of us regarding the birth of modern day spiritualism.
Yeah.
But it's an absolutely fascinating story that you've uncovered for us.
Yes, it's
and
a wonderful story.
it is, and I think it's got myself thinking quite differently on it, and I do believe those who are watching online, rather currently, or memories on the watch the recording as it goes out, will probably stir something within them. Let's have a look at any questions that we've got coming in. Right, okay, so we've got one from the Medium's Voice podcast. Hello, guys.
Hello.
Hope you're okay. And The question is, who do you think the most instrumental medium was to the spiritualist movement? Wow, that's
a question.
That is a question and a half.
Are we talking about the times of the early phases or as it progressed? As I said, that mediumship has always gone in phases.
Yes.
And it's always developed in different ways. Like, for example, it more or less started with physical mediumship. Yep. The RAPS, of course, is physical mediumship. So we could say that physical mediumship actually started in the light, rather than the darkness.
You see, that's a question that a lot of people ask is, why does physical mediumship need to be in the dark?
Yes.
Why? Why is that need for that?
I guess because apart from the RAPS, it always has been. And there's obviously different explanations. The general one is if you have a film, it has to be developed in the dark because it's light sensitive. Okay, so the early seances, without doubt, were always done in pitch dark.
Yeah.
But as I said to you earlier, all mediumship has gone through phases. So when we go back to the very early mediumship, if you was a trance medium, or if you was a physical medium, or if you was a clairvoyant, that's what you would be. Okay? There was little chance of you being something else because that particular development hadn't started. There are exceptions to this, of course, but I'm talking about a general role.
Yeah.
So if you was like an early materialization medium, you couldn't combine that with trance, for example, like we have today. For example, Helen Duncan would go into a trance and the spirit would speak through her, okay? And so forth. So it wasn't like that. It was very slow. It was very crude in its motivation. People like Emma Harding Britton, James Morse, Staten Moses, and all the rest of it, all really started off as physical mediums, because that's what it was. But spiritualism realized, or people like Emma Harding Britton realized, was that this wasn't really the way forward. We didn't want to promote this new coming religion, because we are a religion now in the SNU.
First and foremost.
Yes, indeed. So they didn't want this coming religion, this coming spiritualism to be demonstrated and to be shown into the dark. So the development of trance was really the way forward.
Yes.
And it's completely different development, of course. I mean, not against development, but this is passive development where physical phenomena is psychic. It's more directed by the medium. The medium would create psychic earthly atmospheres that would be required, i.e. the magnetism and all the rest of it. So this was a completely new way, or this was the way that spiritualism developed through trance mediumship. And it would slowly, even then, change. Because like Emma Harding Britton, she was very religious.
Yeah.
Okay, and in her first trance address, she wanted to bring spiritualism into Christianity. Okay, and this would have been at Troy in, I believe, 1856, I think, off the top of my head. Yeah. But instead of bringing it into priestcraft, she brought it out. Okay. So spiritualism became really, I would say, from that point, more independent and started to stand on its own 2 feet.
So would you say Emma Harding Britton was more instrumental?
She was very instrumental in spreading the word of spiritualism. Spiritualism just after Hidesville was very Christian-based. The spiritualists considered, they didn't call it spiritualism, they called it spiritual manifestations, would have been the word you would use them. They wanted to impregnate that into Christianity because it was going to prove the Bible. It was going to prove the miracles of the Bible, and this was spiritualism sort of to come. But we haven't answered this question, of course.
We haven't.
Sorry.
Okay,
Sorry.
Let's get back to it.
So I think really it depends on the type of mediumship in which you would be interested in. I can't say I have a particular singular medium.
No. I mean, personally,
to be honest,
I don't. I think there's been a collective of mediums over the decades.
I don't have a singular phenomena either, really. That
right. Okay. So good afternoon, Angie, and also Jacqueline Struthers. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming online. And we've got Lon Arthur, great knowledge, Paul. Thank you for all you do for the SNU.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Pleasure.
Well, the question we've got is, right, okay, Happy Hydesville Day, everyone. This is from Nottingham Spiritualist Church, Hall Street. This is so interesting. We have the first Lyceum banner with Andrew Jackson Davis on, who we believe supported the sisters. Have a great day, everyone, and thank you for this talk. Simon Harris, President of Nottingham Spiritualist Church and Vice President of the SNU East Midlands. Thank you. Got Stephen Tickle. That's great. Thank you. Welcome, Stephen.
Hello, Stephen.
And the question there from Weston-super-Mare National Spiritualist Church. Did Emma Hardinge Britton have direct contact with the Fox sisters?
Yes, her, almost I was going to say her best friend, but certainly one of her best friends was Leah, the eldest Fox sister. She considered her the best rapper of all the Fox sisters. The three Fox sisters, even though there are quite a lot of the Fox family involved in Hidesville, only really three of them come out as
yeah. It makes me smile when you say best rapper.
Yeah.
So let's get down with it.
Yeah, get down, man.
Get down with it. Yeah, that's very interesting. So.
Yeah, but of course Margaret, or Maggie, she was never really a spiritualist as such. She was a Catholic.
Oh, and interesting.
And you will find many writings with Margaret, or with Maggie, as she was better known, that she didn't particularly get in the flow of spiritualism at all. It was Katie, really, that was the one that was the spiritualist. She sat, for example, with Sir William Crookes and did experiments. She experimented in materialization. She experimented in trance mediumship. There's an awful lot to Katie in which we don't actually know, or which people are not aware of rather than know.
Right.
So that's just another aspect of how they moved away.
Okay. Right. Any more ones? Just keep your questions coming in, folks. We've got one here from which was already sent to us from Rachel. Could we do a trip to USA to visit Hidesville? I'm not sure whether this means an official trip from the union or for members to go, or if for individually, but you are more than welcome to go individually. If you do set up a trip, Rachel, you can invite me. I'll come with you. Yeah?
Can I come?
Yeah, of course you can. Have you ever been to Hidesville? No. I've never been myself, but that's really good. We've got another one coming in there. Okay, that's interesting. We've been offered a job as being rappers for the Spiritualists National Union, so I don't know about you, Paul, but I can't rap. Can you?
We can do a tune.
Why not? Why not, yeah. My knees do knock like, so I can get that.
Excuse the pun, knock.
Yes. So we got one from Kerry. Do either Paul or Lesnar have any mediums who have had the Fox sisters come through to them when working? And if so, what did they say? Paul?
Well, I've never read one single report of any of the Fox sisters communicating. Not one. We have all these journals behind which holds much of our history from the 1870s.
Yeah.
There's a lot in there, of course, about the Fox family and Hydesville and Rapid, but I've never actually read a report, not one single report, of any of them actually coming back to communicate.
Yeah.
It's very strange, really, when you think of it.
Yeah, it is. I've been a working medium for 37 odd years, and I've never had any communication come through from them. But you would think somewhere in some of our home circles up and down the country, or even overseas, that private home circles, that they would surely have had some type of communication from these people.
I would expect in America, in the spiritualist camps, as they call them, Lilydale, for example, where the cottage was originally moved to, and there was further rapping in it, so it's reported.
Yeah.
I expected they would have possibly have had some kind of reports of communication, but I personally haven't heard anything.
No. But one thing would be interesting if any of our viewers have got any stories or know of any, to get in touch. If you can email us, or message Paul, message myself, that would be great, because I think that would be another topic itself to speak on.
Yeah, because we've only actually really touched just on the edges of Hydesville.
Yeah.
There was an awful lot more. There's so much information that actually did take place there. Like they tried to dig for the body, for example, but the water height was too high, and they tried to keep digging down, but again, that never worked.
Wasn't there some something written that they did find bones in the cellar, but weren't they bones that discovered later on? They were bones of an animal.
There is a report, I think off the top of my head, 1903, which was where the foundations of Hydesville Cottage was, or was at that particular time. There's nothing substantial. It's considered that they were chicken bones by many reports.
Right.
One would consider, some reports say there was a whole skeleton that was found, which I think is a bit fanciful.
That'd be lovely, wouldn't it?
It would be lovely, but I think if human remains were found, certainly the police would be involved.
Yeah.
Apparently the bones were not kept. They were never checked by a doctor. There are no independent reports that anything was actually found of any value as such.
Yeah.
And it also says, of course, that they were found in the walls of the cottage. Which really disproves the story in a way, because everything is in the centre of the cottage. You see, they did experiments at Hidesville with all the people there, where one person would stand upside down, stand on the floor, and somebody would walk around in the cellar, and they would ask the spirit to rap when the person is over his body. Okay? And this was done many, many times. And every time there was no raps. But as soon as somebody went into the centre of the cellar, the same place that the first girl, Lucretia, found with all what she was told called rat holes, all the soil was loose, suggesting that something had obviously happened in there, then you would hear the raps. So every time they tried these different experiments with this particular committee, with David Fox and all the rest of it, everything was so precise.
Right.
You know, I mean, I've tried, because I always like to look at two sides of everything. People that know me will always know that I try to tell, and sometimes I'm called critical and all the rest of it. I always try to find the other side of the story, the darker side of the story, the doubtful side of the story. But I've never been able to find anything at Hidesville that ever suggests that anything else happened there, apart from the communications that took place, which is the two-way communication, which is founded on what we call making spiritualism.
I mean, you make reference there of trying to look for the dark side. I do think it's important that we do remain a healthy skeptic.
Yes.
Yeah. And do our research.
I mean, that's a bad choice of word, dark. I don't mean dark as in dark. I mean the negative side.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, there's another question, which is sort of, you're speaking there about the wrappings in the middle of the floor. Western-super-Mare National Church. Just ask a question: do any mediums experience wrappings today?
Not what I know of. Yeah. Not what I know of. This like mesmerism, like many of our older types of phenomena, they've just gone. They've died out over the years. I expect there would be possibly some home circles or something that
I would
has experienced this, but commercially or in recent years in my researches, no, I've never heard of anyone that's experienced this for many years.
I mean, I have sat in circles, and we have heard noises behind us, not necessarily a rapping, but a noise. But once again, you've got to look at this in a realistic sense. Is it the radiators? Yeah, if you're in a modern home, you've got to look at every avenue.
You've got yes,
and you've got to. But Once again, if there is anyone who was experiencing rappings, that would be great and interesting to do. And I do believe that we should be moving more towards our setting up. We do have a science committee looking at scientific experiments for these type of phenomena to prove or disprove the facts. And I think that is something that should definitely be taken seriously and going forward. So do we have any more questions?
Any direct questions on there? Or?
Any time? That's it. So up to now. So, plenty of likes coming in, plenty of people.
Good. Now, as some
there's a question there which has come from President Jackie Wright. Why should we change our history? No other religion does.
Well, because our history is what happened. It's what has created what we have today. An ideal scenario is like we are talking about the Hydesville now, how it becomes so distorted, how it becomes so far out of range. That why we're going to tighten it in.
On another note, but stories in the Bible are very distorted, aren't there?
Yeah.
There's many you go through the Old Testament, the New Testament, and some of them stories that are written. You look at it in a realistic sense, and they appear very far-fetched.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't get the Catholic Church rewriting, or the Church of England rewriting them about the history. So I think it poses quite a good question, and maybe some of the viewers might have some good points on that. But yeah, that is interesting. So another question that has come through from Neil Brody. Thank you, Neil. Good afternoon. Are there any descendants of the Fox sisters that are working with mediums today? Oh, that's interesting.
No, that's an interesting question. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. No. There was a book back in the 40s or 50s. I can't quite remember. I think her name was Pond, and she wrote a book, and she was a great something of the Fox sisters, and she wrote a book. But unfortunately, factually, it was not a good book,
right?
And it's certainly not that I would recommend. And we've stopped selling it here at the college. We used to sell it at the college, but we don't send it anymore. Miriam Pond or something like that was the name. Sound like a medium now, don't I? Yeah, something like that. So, So
what was the colour of her eyes?
So, no, I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Not what I know of, no.
Good. So, another there from Jackie Wright. Absolutely, we are a religion of truth, not myth.
Yes.
Which I did say at the beginning, that we are a progressive religion. We are aiming for the truth, and sometimes these things we need to be fluid. We need to progress. We need to move on.
Because we're one of the few religions, you see, that's always changing.
Yeah.
Because our phenomena changes, and so forth, we're always growing and expanding, albeit the central truth is always the same in the middle.
Yeah.
So this is the importance of Hidesville. The essential truth was the communication between the two worlds. That's what sets us apart.
Yes.
So that's the truth. What happens from there onwards is really like a ripple on a pond. And we go through all these different things, different phenomena, different ideas, different mediumships, but we always remain with spirit communication. So that's really the essence, part of course from the philosophy of spiritualism, which is a different story, of course.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, she does, Jackie does thank you for your transparency and honesty, Paul.
Well, thank you, Jackie.
So, hello, Lou. Lee. Lee Chu. She's saying good afternoon. Good afternoon to you. Yvonne Nielsen, the only religion that embraces change and science.
Yes, indeed, yes.
Indeed, very good. So,
yeah.
Right, so Western Supermare Church, once again, you're busy today. I love it. Yeah, asking, are there any, can't see that. If that's it.
Put your glasses on, Des.
So put my glasses on. Right. Are there any other can't even say the word, contemporaneous reports of Hidesville than the one quoted?
No, this is the only one I know, which is without the official one.
How much is that?
These are $4.50, I think, which is the full thing.
£4.50. This is what you need.
And of course, if you go on to the internet, which most of us have, you can get down as a free download a book called Modern Spiritualism, 1855, by Capron. Capron was a very important figure in Hidesville. He was the gentleman that arranged the first demonstration of spiritualism in Rochester in November 1849. And this is where Leah and Margaret would demonstrate raps for the first time in public.
Yeah.
When they actually could fill the whole hall. So we are reporting.
Yes, and there was reports that it was full to capacity, wasn't it?
Yes.
The hall.
And the raps would come on doors, on seats, and all over the building. Yes, it's a very large building as well, so it's reported. It was brand new at the time.
Okay. Good afternoon, Rachel Nielsen. Hope you're keeping well. And Redfern Charlotte, good afternoon, everyone. And she says that Redfern reckons this is very interesting. I find it a very interesting topic, and listening to Paul's discovery, I might add, makes it even more of an interesting story and just shows you the journey that happened and occurred for us to be here today on March the 31st, Hidesville Day.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Paul, a big thank you.
Pleasure.
This has been a very informative stream. I hope you watching have thoroughly enjoyed it. And I hope it's give you something to think about. And like I say, any questions that you want, if you just direct them to us via the Facebook page, and they will get seen to responded as soon as we've
May I just say one thing?
Yeah.
As you probably know, many people here, I edit the SNU journal, electronic journal, called Pioneer. We have our own page on the SNU website, and there's a whole booklet on there which you can download free of charge on Hidesville.
Okay.
And it's got on there my PowerPoint, which originally was used when we updated our educational services, all the rest of it. So all the information can be found in Pioneer under the Hidesville booklet, which is a PDF booklet which you can search. And I think it's probably worth downloading if you're interested in Hidesville. And it covers much of what we have said here.
Right.
And there's also a picture there of actually inside the Hidesville house, which is extremely rare. It's got the floor plan. It's got various things. It's got the history of this house here and so forth. Yeah.
Okay. That's lovely.
Yeah.
So it just leaves to say a big thank you from Paul and myself. And thank you for listening. And remember, keep proving and keep showing the truth. And happy Hidesville. Thank you.